Hi everyone, welcome back to the Blokes Broadcast podcast. I'm Steve.
And I'm Dan. Today's episode is one that means a lot to both of us. I'm going to be talking about something that doesn't get quite a lot of attention, and that's the mental health of separated fathers. So before we begin, we want to say that separation is difficult for everyone involved, mothers, fathers, and especially children, and that can all be deeply affected. This isn't about blaming anyone. It's about opening an honest conversation about why some fathers struggle so much and what we can do to support them.
Yeah, as you said, Dan, it's not about putting the blame or holding anyone to account. But many men don't speak about their feelings and they're afraid to be judged. Society often expects men to just get on with it, but the truth is, many separated dads are carrying grief, loneliness, financial pressure, and fear, all while trying to be the best fathers they can. Today, we're going to explore that happens, hear real examples, discuss support is available, and most importantly, remind people that there is hope.
So,
So,
um,
so I suppose that in from your point of view, do you know many people, men, that are separated from their children?
um, yeah, well, I'm just trying to think. I do. I mean, obviously, I know you, for example, that you do see your kids. I'm not really. See, it's really difficult because I'm not. If I think about it, there's probably several people I know. I, um, oh, yeah, I probably do. I can't. It's a tough one. I
But
do, but I
I
can't think.
suppose, do you know anybody apart from obviously, myself over the years, with my two sons and stuff like that. Um,
Mm,
I have a son. My eldest son is 19 and lives in Norwich. And
good man.
my good place plan, absolutely. My youngest son from another relationship, he is now 12, and I am separate. I wasn't married to my first partner, but I was married to um my youngest son's mother. They currently live in Dublin, and about an hour and a half away from me. They live in Dublin. I live in Kilkenny.
Good.
And I suppose the realization of that is that it's an hour and a half travel, but sometimes it's expected that I should be in Dublin a lot more to see my son.
Mm,
It's not always the case. Yes, I
no.
miss school runs, I miss bedtime stories, football matches, um, and stuff like that. Um, I suppose the biggest thing for me is that I do have a really good relationship with both of my sons, especially my eldest son. That wasn't
Mm,
always the case. I don't mean from father and son point of view. It was just he, they get to that age 11, 12, 13. Um, Noah is his name, and he would come over to me during the summer more so than throughout the year. But I suppose when he hit his teenage years, um, he didn't really want to come because he didn't want to miss his friends. And it's a bit
yeah.
ironic because I'm now going through the same thing with my youngest son.
No.
Because he was down with me so I am for a week, 2 weeks in the summer, 1 week in July, 1 week in August. But what's had to happen now after the week he went home and he dropped me a text and said, Dad, I don't want to come down for a week because I want to spend the rest of the summer with my friend and stuff. And I completely understand that. It doesn't take away from the fact that I am disheartened and obviously it hurts, but the most the most the most thing for me is it's his feelings. If he wants to do that,
No.
that's no problem. I can arrange other times. I still have him every second weekend and stuff like that. So
Mm,
he just doesn't want to come down for that length of time. That's perfectly
mm.
fine. But apart from myself, yeah, I heard of one. Sorry, Dan, you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, and yeah, I've got a family member. I can I think of that. He doesn't. He's not with their kids. They're separated. But what I was going to say is, like, he's moved on. He's with someone else. But you get some, you know. some people looking at the front cover of a book, obviously don't judge a book by its cover, and they think, at least they still see their children. And obviously that's not always the case. Those people might not be seeing their children. They might be, you know, um, going home to an empty house. And the change as well for them, I'm guessing, is, I think what it'd be like, I can hear my kids now. They're up, they could be in bed, but I can hear them now. But I think if I came home, silence speaks volumes, because I think if I came back to the silent house and my kids weren't here, I don't know how I would cope. And I'm lucky that I'm not in that position, but there are a lot of people who are in that position who obviously do want to see their kids, and for one reason or another, they're not able to. Um, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. And please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying. I suppose there's fathers out there that don't want to be fathers, and that's their prerogative. However, there's fathers out there that actually want to be fathers, but there's also mothers on the other side that will use their children against
Yeah, yeah,
father. Now, that's not my case at all. I get to see my two sons whenever I want, which is great.
yeah.
However, I know for one instance, years ago, I got to know somebody. And again, we were just talking. He had met a girl from Liverpool, and obviously he lived there for a while. Things didn't work out. He came back to Ireland, and he was petrified of flying. So the only way he could get over was via boat, because he says he cannot. He's booked so many flights. He's turned up to the airport, and even before, he can't actually get on the plane. He's get on the plane, he's asked to get off because his fear was that bad. Um,
God,
and the on the flip side of that, there was arrangements made, for example, that the mother would meet him down in the ferry port. She would never turn up. Um, and he financially supports his child as much as he can. Um, but I suppose it brings me on to I I read somewhere of recent of a CSA, that's a child support agency in the UK. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes. So this particular person he was under massive financial stress, emotionally, physically, everything. And I read a story, and he was being overcharged by the CSA. And what's after happening is, unfortunately, he lost his life to suicide. And that's the dark side of being a separated father. Um,
no, that is,
um,
yeah,
and people always, um, they always come out with stupid comments, going, "Oh well, he doesn't, it's his choice where he wants to live and where he wants to see, and stuff like that." Um, and that's the problem that we have here, that he he felt that the services out there have let him down in terms of financial support for his children, and he could not afford this. And I find the model of the CSA a bit of a joke, to be honest with you,
mm,
because I don't think it's done fairly. I don't think it's done fairly. Now, I've never had to deal with the CSA because I live in the Republic of Ireland, and uh, we don't obviously have a cross connection between the CSA and sorry, not welfare, financially, between the UK and Ireland.
yeah,
So I I basically reached an agreement with my ex partner who lives in the UK. Uh, this is how much I'm going to pay, and that's how much I'm going to pay, and stuff like that. And going through the process over here with my youngest son. Divorce proceedings have been finalised, and all the agreements and that as well. It's crazy the way it can just have an effect on different people.
yeah. No, it is. I think I know you've been through. If we go back to you, um, for a moment, I know that you've had your struggles and your your battles with obviously what you've been going through with your separation and your divorce. But at least I suppose you haven't had your kids used as a weapon against you. I know you've had your issues and battles and what have you with your separation, but I guess you haven't. You've been fortunate that your kids haven't been used against you. Like
Well,
in
sorry,
so,
Dan.
so
Just sorry, in terms of that, when my eldest son was younger, I did have a similar situation like that, where
really,
if I didn't agree to certain things, um,
mm,
I I couldn't have him, or I booked flights and it just didn't happen and stuff like that. So there was not to the extent that would want to lead me to um make my own life, but it's
mm,
um I suppose I shared my I listen, I shared my own experiences, and there was one instance I shared before where my I just couldn't take anymore, and
yeah,
I drove straight from after work. I didn't even finish work. I drove straight to Wales and came home. And on the
oh
way
well,
home,
yeah,
I was about to commit suicide. And if it wasn't for an intervention of a phone call, I
mm,
wouldn't be here today. So
I,
um,
I
I have,
remember now.
yeah, yeah. But um, eh, I'm in the position where things are good, so I can't complain. So, but I do, yeah. The financial pressure on 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 people that separate parents, um, is crazy. And I'm not saying that just because you're separated or a single father that you will feel the necessity to uh, take your own life. But obviously, there's other factors there as well where the person in question is struggling mentally and physically and emotionally, and it's never an easy task to I suppose go through.
No, um, no, it's not. I think what I completely forgot, if I'm honest with you, about you going. Well, obviously, I didn't forget you went back. You're in Ireland, but I, I forgot the circumstances that what went around it. Um, right, um, yeah, like obviously, if you're living in two households as well, um, you've got the running of two households. You've got there's been two lots of clothing. You've got um, travelling expenses if you've got to go and get your children. For you, for example, you know, when your eldest son, you'd have to travel over to the UK and then go back. So, um, yeah, it's a big cost involved as well. And it's um, I just think like when you're with someone and you have children with them, yeah, you can't help what's going on, and you can't help. Obviously, you've got to do what's best for you. But when like children come along, your kind of life kind of goes out of the window as such, as much as your children take priority. So any decision you make will affect your child, and obviously it's heartbreaking. If I was at the gate, I didn't think of my children, I would be, yeah, it just tugs at the heartstrings, I suppose.
Well, I suppose from the financial aspect, like you said, I still pay child maintenance for my son in the UK. He's at the age now where he's off to college and stuff like that. So um, that's okay. He's starting to plan his own career and stuff like that, which is great. However, when he
Mm,
was younger, for example, as I said, I always paid for our flights. Um, and for example, how that would work is that I would book flights, say, for 6 o'clock in the morning, go over, land in Stansted at whatever, an hour later, whatever. And then I would drive up to, he was living in Lowestoft at the time, drive up to
Mhm.
Lowestoft and pick him up. I'd either hire a car, well, mainly hire a car because it was faster. But that was the added cost, and then the cost of fuel and that as well. So I would drive up to Lowestoft, drive the hour and a half or whatever, pick him up, turn around and come back and get sorted a later flight in the evening, just to give us enough time to get back down. But yeah, that was that was a massive financial strain on me because, like you said, I was paying a mortgage and the, the cost of traveling and stuff like that. And when he was here, there was Christmas presents, there was birthday presents, all that sort of thing. So I suppose the likes of the CSA and stuff like that wouldn't really take any of that into account,
Yeah.
um, which is crazy. And then I suppose the guy we were talking about, I just read it here. This guy is named Ian Sandywell. So the
Mhm.
father hanged himself after receiving letters from the child support agency demanding £11,000 in backdated maintenance payment for his son. An inquest is here. Ian Sandywell, 45, was told he would have to give £520 a month in back payments for his 22-year-old son Ben. Hours before killing himself, the car salesman from Stoke-on-Trent texts Ben saying, "Delete me out of your life. I'm going to hang myself." Um, Sandywell's body was discovered by his wife, Joanne Basmo, when she returned from work on the evening of the 7th of November last year. Um, she said Sandywell was receiving a number of letters from the CSA claiming he was in arrears for outstanding payments to Ben. But on the 7th of November, a new letter demanded £11,000, which is more than Sandywell had previously told to pay. Uh, Balismo described how her husband had phoned her at lunchtime sobbing over fears she would not be able to support her and pay their mortgage. Though they had agreed to discuss this matter that evening, she found him dead in the garage when she got home. It was the most horrific and traumatic day of her life. Ian has never seen suicide before this. The inquest heard that even after her husband's death, Barrows continued to see letters from the CSA ordering that payments be made to Sandywell's estate. The CSA, the CSA just treats all parents like they don't want to see their kids. This February, the email said, sorry for your loss. Please accept this letter as a claim on Ian's estate for outstanding amount of £9,000. So once again, the amount was charged, she said. She added it was hard for absent parents and that CSA does not take people's lives into account. I think there's a better way of treating an individual circumstances as far as the CSA concerned. I feel if they handled it more sensibly and more professionally, that Ian would be still here. Ben, a law graduate from Ayrshire, Staffordshire, said he took his father's text as a joke and told him to go back to him when he wanted to speak properly. I wouldn't describe myself as close to my dad. We weren't in touch that much, just birthdays, Christmas, and the odd meal here and there. I was young when they split up, but the maintenance payments had become hit and miss. The amount they wanted was based on his income, I think, so that's why the amount would change, I think. But my mum dealt with it more than me. Recording a verdict of suicide, coroner Ian Smith said Ian had been concerned about the very substantial child support debt. He engaged in a number of texts with his son, said rather silly things, including that he would hang himself. I don't think anyone would have believed him in the minute. Now, I just find that shocking on a couple of levels. Um, the financial, obviously, I don't know the full background of what this gentleman was paying to his partner and stuff like that. However, still demanding £9,000 after he passed away is
Yeah.
absolutely utterly shocking, I'm afraid. Shocking.
That is, um, yeah, that is really shocking. Um, to feel like that as well, and perhaps and felt that he didn't speak to anyone, and clearly not. I mean, to do that, um, like, I don't know, it's, the thing is, like, we with men, we've said it time and time again, men are taught, and I've said it, my 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 uncle basically said to me, "You don't cry, or you don't talk, you don't show your feeling. You're the man of the house." And that's the thing that, you know, to get to that point, he clearly felt like he didn't tell anyone. He clearly, you know, um, that, that that's awful. That's awful. I'm sorry.
Like, I'm sorry, but
Um,
the way I understand the CSA works, obviously, if your income goes up, you pay more.
yeah,
However, they don't base it after tax, they base it before tax. So
okay,
I don't understand how that's fair, because you're paying that tax, but you're still expected. For example, if you're earning £30,000 and after tax you're only taking home 27, for example,
uh-huh,
you're still expected to pay the higher rate.
yeah,
And the CSA don't look the CSA just don't look at it as a there's no level of compassion. They're an organization that are there to collect money from fathers, and for example, and I'm not too sure how it works the other way. That if the father
mm,
has custody, I'm sure the mother has to pay maintenance as well. But I just don't think it's done fairly. And
yeah,
they don't take your cost of living, for example. They don't take the fact that you have to pay rent or a mortgage, or
yeah,
you have to tax and insure your car. You have to put food on the table. They just simply look at it as a figure, and you as a figure, and you're
yeah,
punished for that, which I think is absolutely disgraceful. I've heard so many times over the years about CSA from different people, over in the UK, that is just unbelievable. Because in Ireland, for example, there's nothing in law of of um how much you have to pay. It's basically, I think, again, it depends on your if it goes to court.
mm,
You could be paid between 75 and €150 a week for
well,
your child. However, the system over here does look at your earnings. So
mm,
if you're paying out ridiculous amount of money, like, they don't hold you to that. However, um, it just yeah, it just baffles me, and it angers me when you read a story about like that, about that poor gentleman who decided he
mm,
couldn't take any more. The pressure, the pressure he must have felt to go to that level of existence, and just take his own life. I'm sorry. It's yeah. It's just
yeah,
it's shocking.
yeah. No, it is shocking. It also, like, I suppose it kind of opens your eyes when, okay, so, um, another person springs to mind, um, and they, well, they've been going through a lot, and unfortunately, um, they're split up from their partner. He doesn't see a child, um, and yeah, he's not coped very well about it at all. Um, the point I'm moving on to is, like, when was the last, right? So, Stephen, when was the last time that you saw someone and said, "Are you okay?" and genuinely, like, meant
Um, I my partner asks me all the time how I am, to be honest.
it? Mm,
Um, because like that, it's just there's so much going on. As I said, my youngest son has decided that he doesn't want to come down for a week, and I suppose, oh no, here we go again. And I
mm,
suppose that did hit me a little bit, because I now have college. I've tried to, I have to try and maneuver all that. Um,
mm,
but I just don't want the pressure. I don't want to put the pressure on my son that he has to come down because he feels he's upsetting me or stuff like that. But saying that, you're only a human being, um, and um, it did take me back a little bit when he sent the message, because it was like, yeah. it's just, have I done something wrong, or does he not like coming down to where I live? And I suppose looking from the outside in, from a different perspective, yes, he has his friends. He goes play golf. He goes play football, and like he doesn't really. He's no friends
mm,
necessity down in Kilkenny. He only has me, so he's relying on me. The two of us do something all the time, and that's not always the case as well. And
yeah,
there's the financial aspect of that. Like, we go play golf,
mm,
we go swimming, we do something. But it's just, yeah, it can get in on you. You can if you're not, if you're not, I won't say you don't necessarily have to be strong, but like it's just you take it on, and you think obviously the negative impact it's going to have on you and stuff. And then when you start feeling a bit more grounded, you then look at the bigger picture, going, well, it's just he's bored. Simple as.
yeah,
But I'm not going to put that pressure on him, regardless of how I
no,
feel.
yeah,
Um,
no,
and
that's
I
fair
also
enough.
feel guilty because I got my college timetable there today,
Mm,
and I've been working full time, and every second weekend, there's a couple of weekends where I possibly won't see him for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but I will make the effort to do something with him during the week, go up to Dublin or something and do something with him, because yeah, I do. I just, yeah, I miss him sometimes.
yeah, I get that. Well, I can understand that. Like, you know, um, see, like, again, I'm, I'm, I'm basing it on, like, you know, uh, I don't know. Do you know, I genuinely don't know how you do it, Stephen. Like, anyone really, because, like, I suppose it's because you have to do it, but you've got no choice. But it must be really hard because I know I go to work, even when I've been away for work and I'm not seeing my kids for a couple of days, but I know I'm going back, I still miss them. And that must be a million times harder for anyone who doesn't know when they're next going to see their kids. Um,
Uh, like, I'll give you an incident, and it hit me a bit of a reality there last when he was down with for the week.
mm,
He he was um he was listening to music, and it was like, oh, what music do you like? And we had a whole discussion about music, and that's like, he probably listened to music at home, um, and it wasn't really anything that we discussed before, um,
mm,
and stuff like that, or what he, well, I know what he likes to watch and stuff, but when you start discussing music and stuff, and he's developing more and more, he's only 12, but I suppose I'm missing out on that because I'm only getting snippets of when he's here. Um, and yeah, yeah. And I suppose one thing, one thing that was, again, stood out to me was, he was down for the week and he had a match, and I was trying to explain to him, that, he didn't want to miss his match. So I told him that I'd bring him on the Friday, which
mm,
again is an hour and a half. Oh, was an hour and a half up, an hour and a half home the same day, because he had a match in Dublin and we live in Kilkenny. It's an hour and a half. Um, and we're out for a cycle, and he goes, I might have training on Sunday. So sure. I said, that's no problem, because you're, you'd be going home Sunday for 6:30, whatever. And I said, you have train, and then they decide to have the train at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning in Dublin. And I'm saying, Ethan, I'm really sorry. I'm not, I'll bring it. Um, and I felt bad, but I sort of explained to him, I said, listen, I said, it's an hour and a half up. I said, I'm not getting up on a Sunday morning at the crack of dawn to drive up. And he goes, well, it's not my fault to live in Kilkenny. And I was going, that was a bit of a kick to the teeth, to be honest,
yeah,
because he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand, but he's hearing it from somewhere. Um, well, I know where he's hearing it from, um,
mm,
but it's just like, it's not, he's 12 and he doesn't understand the bigger picture, the way my eldest son does now. And I'm hoping in time he will. Um,
mm,
but it is a bit of a dig. And he doesn't mean. I know he doesn't mean it. He's only thinking about his match and stuff like that. But as I said, I drive for a living from Monday to Friday, and I'm up and down all the time. And it
Mm,
does. I've only realised lately it does have an impact on you. Um, it's like an hour and a half up, an hour and a half back without whatever driving I do around the country for the rest of the week. And the week I had off, I just said, I couldn't do it. I was exhausted. So, but that's, I suppose that's the other side people don't see. Um, and I'm not making excuses. But there has to be a line when you can't do it all the time.
no, no, you can't do. I mean, I suppose, um, like, yeah, you can't do it all the time. Um, as I've said, like, I, I mean, it's really, so this is like, I'm trying to put my feet in or yours, and yeah, your shoes. Um, and I think considering what you've been through and what you suffer with, you either put on a very, very good act, but I think you deal with it really, really well, Stephen. Like I know, like you, as I say, there's times that you probably think, oh, why am I getting out of bed and stuff? But you do it, and you get up, you go to work, you do all your stuff at the moment. I know you can't be all cycling and stuff like that, but you do it, and I suppose that's just amazing. And I just think, not very, it does make your head really big thing, but I think, yeah, I think you're brilliant. I don't know how you do it.
I I'd say thanks for that, but it's it's you do feel guilty. You do feel guilty because um feel guilty of from both sides, especially with my eldest son. I've a fantastic relationship with him now, and it's just
Mm,
he'll give me a call and we'll have a chat, and he's just turned into the most fantastic um man because that's exactly what he is and what he does
mm,
and his work ethic and everything. And I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of my youngest son.
yeah,
But no, I'm not going to give myself a pat on the back because that's
no, I know what you mean. I
I
get it.
love my children, and it's not their fault. Relationship didn't work,
Mm,
so I'm not going to whatever people might say sometimes that it's or whatever people say about fathers moving away or like to be honest, like the most difficult parts, and I never forget it. We had separated, myself and my wife, and I was living at home for um, a couple of months afterwards, and we just made a decision that it's not we'd separate, but it's not going to work. So I had to move back um, uh, to my parents' house, and I never forget the night because it was my first weekend with Ethan, and I packed all my stuff into a van um, and moved back to my parents and moved back into a bedroom. And it's almost like, here we go again. But this is different. This is different. Um, um, and then obviously time went on and I met somebody. And I'm not going to apologize for it. I didn't go out to meet
mm,
somebody. And I, that person lives in Kilkenny. Um, I moved closer to obviously be with my partner. We're together coming on 5.5 years, or 5 years, sorry, five. Um, and then I do feel guilty sometimes because my son's in Dublin. I'm an hour and a half away. but it's only an hour and a half drive. That's the way I look at it. It's only an hour and a half drive, and I can see him, which is good. I don't have to
Yeah,
get on a plane, and I'm in a position. I'm in a position where I have a company car,
yeah.
so my units take
Me
care
too.
of my all that. But it's just sometimes, Dan. It's excuse me for a second. It's um, it is hard. It is hard. I'm not going to say it's not hard. But unfortunately, that's the way life turned out for me, and I won't shy away from being a father. And people may judge me for that, for where I live, where I moved to, or what I'm doing, or what I chose to do. But at,
The
at
thing
the
is,
end of,
it's
that's
still
their
there.
problem.
You're still there. You're still there. There's many fathers, Stephen, and personally, I, 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 I know, not being me, my dad would always there for me, but from other people, they've never seen that, they've not even shown any interest in being their children. So, you know, you, uh, one thing I always say about you, Stephen, is like, and I say this a lot, and your ears might be burning every day, but I do say, I always give you as an example of a good parent who doesn't, who is a cost of a single dad. I always give you as a good example because I think you are a good example of a dad, a single dad. And are you all right?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
fine.
Um, yeah. I I think you are, and you've got a lot to be proud of. I mean, if you, Stephen, could give advice to a dad, what would you give?
Just don't give up hope. Simple
Yeah,
as that. And I know it might seem. I know. Listen, I know it might seem terrible. Sorry, hard and struggling and don't know what way to done. But um, if if you're listening to the podcast tonight and you're after listening to what we had to say, again, there's always hope. Just don't give up. It may seem terrible today, but it might improve because you're you might be refused access to your children. You might still have to pay child maintenance. However, your children get older and they may eventually want to get to know you and and want to know why. And that gives you the opportunity to sit down with your son or your daughter and explain why. And explain that it's not your fault. Explain that you've tried everything and
mm,
that the other person is making that difficult. And that works for the mother as well. Um, Listen, life is not perfect, and I hate to tell you, it never will be. Anyone that tells you they live the perfect life is they're lying. They're lying. We're all going to hit that bump in the road. We're all going to hit that low. Um, we're not going to ever see the light, as I always say. However, you will you will get there, and just please do not give up hope. Suicide by any means is not the answer. You've people out there that love you. You've your parents, you have siblings, you have friends, and the detrimental impact that you leave behind because you choose to lose your life to suicide. And I'm not saying you can always see clearly because somebody that does that doesn't cannot see beyond the darkness. But as I said, and Dan has said it many times, there is hope out there.
there there is hope. You've just got to, you know, speak out. Just let someone know. Let someone know you're not okay. Um, and they can be there for you. If not, they will find help. The thing, as we've said all the time, every single week, you can always reach out to us, um, and we'll listen, and we will do what we can to help. So you're not alone. You're not alone at all.
Absolutely. And I suppose on that note, um, we will like to thank you everybody again for listening to the podcast from wherever you're listening to. And I just want to reiterate what Dan said there. If you're struggling, you need to talk, we're here to listen. And thank you for listening to us.
Yeah, right. And we'll see you next week.
Take care, everyone.